my beautiful loves of the world, is me, Queen Nightmare, and I am going to do the second part, or should I say 1993, of Sweet Tooth, a Drarry fanfiction. And this will be 28 days till Halloween. I love this song. Jenny Weasley cried and dragged Harry off his butt. Come dance, come dance. Harry laughed as the theme from Ghostbusters blared from over the school gym hall. They pushed their way into the throng of middle schoolers. The place was covered in paper bats and pumpkins. The home ec classes had been craving. It was pretty cheesy, but Harry didn't really mind. Only Ginny could get him to dance. All the other girls in his grade were kinda intimidated. Her brother Ron didn't seem to think so, though. Judging by the way he was locking lips with Lavender Brown. Ew, Harry said, and Ginny giggled as they started jumping around together. My brothers are all so gross, she said, as if this was a big confession. And it was Harry's turn to laugh. Couldn't he at least have picked someone cool? What is she even supposed to be? Harry tilted his head. I think she's a cat, he said. But in truth, Lavender was just wearing a dance on unitard with a tail sewn on with and triangle ears in her hair. Ginny was dressed as an Indiana Jones, which he thought was much better, and he was one of his favorite heroes, Luke Skywalker. Is Lavender his girlfriend? He asked. Ginny snorted. Duh, she said. They're kissing. That makes her his girlfriend. Harry wasn't sure. He and Ginny hung out a lot, and his dad had asked if she was his girlfriend. Harry snorted of the thought that she might be. He had never kissed anyone before, let alone her. He thought maybe he should try it, but the idea made him nervous, so he didn't say anything for a while. Do you want to get some punch? She asked after a couple more songs, and Harry nodded, thinking maybe he could ask her for a kiss away from the dance floor. They walked through the crowd, past a bunch of boys from Harry's class sitting on the bleachers. In the middle was Draco Malfoy in a really fancy-looking Freddy Krueger outfit that Harry bet his mom had ordered specially. Him and Draco were always in classes together, but they never really spoke. He was too cool for Harry, who never knew what to say when all his friends were always around. But today Draco gave him a nod and lifted up his mask. Potter, he said with a wink in Ginny's direction. Malfoy? Harry said hastily back. Him and Ginny thankfully moving away to the drinks table where the swell of the crowd hid them. Here you go, Ginny, Here you go, Ginny said, handing him a glass of red fruit punch. and smiled as she took a sip. Harry decided he was going to get anywhere by being a wuss. So without saying anything, he had to sneak a look to see if any teachers were watching. Then took Ginny's hand and ducked under the bleachers to give them some privacy. "What are you doing?" she giggled as Harry stood in front of her. I thought maybe." He took a deep breath. Can I kiss you?" Ginny blinked in shock, then smiled. "Okay, sure," she said happily and put her glass down too. Without a trace of shyness, she planted her feet closed her eyes, and puckered up her lips. Oh wow, he was really going to have to do this. Balling his fists, Harry leaned in and very carefully pressed his lips against hers. "What was that it? Was that what you were supposed to do?" It seemed sort of wet. They stood there for a couple of moments before Harry leaned back and separated them with a pop. That was weird. That wasn't exactly the reaction he'd been hoping for. But the truth is, she was right. "Yeah," Harry said, shoving his hands in his pocket. "I'm sorry." Ginny didn't seem that fazed. "Do you want to try it again?" she suggested, tilting her indie hat back and smiling. But he really didn't. The whole thing seemed completely wrong. He said, getting embarrassed. "I don't know. How about we go dance instead?" Ginny said, and took his hand, and "We don't have to tell anyone," she added kindly. For some reason, that made him feel better. "Okay," he said, relieved, and they re-emerged to join the throng once again. He was bothered for the whole rest of the evening, and was actually glad that when his mom came to pick him up a few hours later. "How's the dance, honey?" She asked. "Fine," he was all he said back. "Hey, but when they got home, his dad came out of the kitchen, a bottle of beer in hand and a grin on his face. "Hey, buddy," he said, "how was the—" Harry didn't let him finish, though. He just ran upstairs, already pulling his costume off before he even got inside his room. But what was wrong with him? Why didn't he want to kiss Ginny? Why didn't he want to kiss anybody? All the girls he imagined maybe made him feel like a bit sick. That wasn't normal, was it? He threw the lightsaber on the floor, causing it to make a swooshing noise and light up green. He dropped the rest of his costume to the floor and hurriedly put his pajamas on, before flinging his glasses angrily to the side and driving up the duvet. Didn't he want to kiss girls? Why didn't he feel like it made him shudder? Ron was off kissing Lavender, and their other friend Neville had kissed a girl called Luna, who was a bit weird, but he seemed to be all excited about it. Harry wanted to be excited too, but why? How did it work? He didn't realize his door was open until he heard his mom's voice, and he didn't realize he was even crying until it was too late. "Hey, sweetie, I made you some cocoa," she said, pulling back the covers. "I thought—" "Oh, Harry!" she cried, upon seeing his tear-stained face. "What on earth did something happen?" She deposited his mug on the bedside table and dropped onto his bed, wrapping him up in her arms like he was a little kid again. But the tears came full force, and he hadn't mind as she rocked him back and forth whilst he sobbed. "Baby, what's wrong?" she said into his hair, which only made him sob harder. "Me!" He finally managed to spit it out. "There's something wrong with me." And in his heart of hearts, he knew there was. He knew there had been for a long time. He wasn't like the other boys on his soccer team. He'd been afraid of it for a while, and sometimes he found himself looking at them when they were changing. Butterflies in his guts started to move. "I'm not normal," he sobbed, even harder. "Of course you are," his mom soothed and rubbing his back. "Tell me what's wrong." Harry cried for a little longer, tiring himself out. It was a while before he could think of what to say. "I kissed Ginny Weasley," he said, by way of an opener. His mother leaned back and looked at him, handing him a tissue to blow his nose. "And?" He bawled and used the Kleenex up and threw it angrily to the floor. "And I didn't like it." His mom raised an eyebrow and cupped his face. "Then don't do it again," she said simply. She didn't understand. The ugly truth was starting to grow in Harry at an alarming rate. How had he been so stupid? How had he been not seen it before? "No, Mom," Sorry, that was disgusting. "No, Mum," he said, trying his best to explain. "I don't think I want to kiss any girls." She dropped her hands to hold his shoulders, rubbing her thumbs in a circular motion through the t-shirt. "You don't have to kiss any girls," she said softly, concern lining in her face. He was going to disgust her. She was going to be disappointed. The thought made him crumble again, and he dropped his head in his hands and his chest shaking silently. His mom didn't say anything though, just hugged him again, ran her fingers through his hair. "I'm wrong," he insisted once again. His mother sighed heavily. "No, you are not wrong, Harry Potter," she said sternly. "Maybe you're just a little different. That's okay." No, it wasn't. He didn't want to be. Harry couldn't he couldn't even bear to think the word. There was nothing worse than that. That's what he called the guys in drama club, or the guys who took a drive on the pitch and cried. Harry didn't want to be like that. "I don't want to be different," he mumbled thickly from where she still had him hugged into her neck. "Different isn't bad," she said bracingly, pulling away to look at him. "Freddie was different, wasn't he?" Harry blinked and rubbed his eyes, looking up at the huge Queen poster he had hanging in his wall. In between the Empire Strikes Back and the Romero and his Barcelona kit. He loved Queen. It was his favorite band, and he'd been practically devastated by the lead singer's death 2 years previous. Freddie was the best, he said, though through the lump in his throat. He didn't care what anyone thought. Mom ruffled his hair. Yeah, she said she said thoughtfully, and he didn't care about being a little different, too, you know? Harry carried on staring at the image of Freddie and the iconic yellow jacket at Wembley. I butchered that. I am so sorry. Wembley Stadium in London. He had got the VHS on the show last Christmas and watched it until the tape had worn thin. I guess not, he said after a while. His mom leaned back and picked up his mug, pressed the lukewarm cocoa to his hand. Listen, she said, wiping his cheeks. You don't have to worry about kissing anyone, okay? You can think about that later when you're a bit older. For now, you can just concentrate on school and soccer and maybe the odd chore or two. He managed to shaky laugh, and she smiled at him, pleased. Nothing to be afraid of, okay? He nodded. She stood up to leave, but Harry called out to her before she got to the door, so she stopped and hand resting on the frame. Yeah, hon? He fiddled with his mug handle. Thanks, he said, sniffing the last of his tears down. She smiled and tilted her head. Anytime, champ, she said warmingly. Love you. Love you too, Mom. That was a long one. But then again, it was a good one, too. Thank you guys for staying here with me, and I can't wait. It is only 28 more days. I still have to receive my costume in the mail. Maybe I'll show you what I did for my Halloween costume. And then I'll ask what you guys are wearing. I love you guys so much. If you have not subscribed to me yet, please click the button down below. And I love you so much. Bye-bye.